One thing you do say in the show, which I thought was interesting, and I kind of went, "Ooh," is when you talk about politicians and how you talked about forget the paradox of being brown in America. You make a quite general, sweeping, many would say accurate remark about the nature of our leaders.
Yeah, that's sociopathic.
We could talk about Hillary Clinton.
Have her on the show. Have her on the show.
I'm not sure she'll agree. Well, that's where that's where I'm going with this conversation, because I don't think she'll come on the show with me. But they do sit down with you, a lot of these big name politicians, and it's interesting because you've sat down with Barack Obama. I watched a very fun conversation you had with Obama, and yet here you are saying he's a war criminal.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Doing a little bit of a bonus episode because we're so excited over at the Casa del Vanguard to have Mehdi Hasan in a live interview with us later on this week. So we're doing a little bit of a bonus episode today. We're going to watch a moment where he has some pushback for comedian Hasan Minhaj. Don't go anywhere. We're going to watch and unpack it together. Let's take a look.
One thing you do say in the show, which I thought was interesting, and I kind of went, "Ooh," is when you talk about politicians and how you talked about forget the paradox of being brown in America. You make a quite general, sweeping, many would say accurate remark about the nature of our leaders. Let's play that clip.
I'm 38 years old. This will be the 10th presidential cycle of my lifetime. Every president in my lifetime goes into office a sociopath and then leaves a war criminal.
I'm not sure she'll agree. Well, that's where we're going. That's right.
Yeah, that's sociopathic.
We could talk about Hillary Clinton.
Have her on the show.
Because they are.
Bro calls Barack Obama a war criminal. I don't want to get taken off YouTube, so we're going to skip ahead really quickly, but let's keep watching.
I'm not sure she'll agree. Well, that's where we're going. That's right.
Yeah, that's sociopathic.
We could talk about Hillary Clinton.
Have her on the show. Have her on the show.
I'm not sure she'll agree. Well, that's where we're going. That's where I'm going with this conversation, because I don't think she'll come on the show with me. But they do sit down with you, a lot of these big name politicians, and it's interesting because you've sat down with Barack Obama. I watched a very fun conversation you had with Obama, and yet here you are saying he's a war criminal.
Yes. Do
you think that'll limit your ability to get people on when you're saying they're all sociopaths who become war criminals?
I've told them that they're sociopaths.
Have you told them they're war criminals?
I mean, I have some version of that. I think in the Obama interview, I think I had an index card or something that was just like, it was like an index card of just like, hey, I'm not going to ask you, but my friends want me to ask you. And then it was like closing Guantanamo Bay. Like, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
The relationship that,
which is interesting. And the fact that he allows it to go down like this is one of the main things I wanted to unpack. And this is partially, where I start to yap. Sorry, everybody here. We'll go ahead and just full screen myself because I've got a lot to say about this. What Mehdi's doing is very politely drawing a line in the sand saying, hey, man, what you do is comedy. What you do is entertainment. What I do is journalism. The fact that you're willing to sit across from Barack Obama and agree to his terms, agree to play ball, agree to simp, agree to not ask about closing Guantanamo Bay, even though you obviously know that's one of many things that should be addressed by a guy who was the president of the United States for 8 years and did a lot of things that he campaigned against doing. He lied a lot, hurt a lot of people. These are things that if you are a journalist, you demand that if you're going to interact with a powerful person, a politician, that you're going to be able to get some answers on, or that you're at least going to be put in a position where you have the opportunity to ask and press. The pressing is very important, not chuckling it off, not just being like, ho, 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 which is something that Barack Obama tries to do often because he's really obsessed with laundering his reputation. And that is why he'll sit down with somebody like Hasan Minhaj, because Hasan Minhaj is a really funny guy. I know he had a weird scandal where he made up a bunch of his jokes, sue him. Okay, I always thought that was kind of crazy. It's like, of course, all of stand-up comedians, all of them make up their jokes. None of it's true. If you think a guy just woke up one morning and had all the funniest shit in the world happen to him, so I never really held that against Hasan Minhaj. But I do think it's interesting here how he doesn't really seem to grapple with the paradox on that deep of a level, other than like, yeah, crazy, man. Like, the guy is a war criminal. I don't know. You know what I mean? My friends brought it up.
I have, in relation to like a bureaucrat or a politician, is I'm just kind of a surrogate for the general population. I happen to do stand-up comedy, but that's really it. So that's why that's the title of the show. Hasan Minhaj doesn't know. I'm not saying I'm.
But you're a very political comedian, right?
See, yeah, Mehdi's trying to hold him accountable a little bit, and the one thing that is a little grating about this exchange with Mehdi and Hasan is the fact that Hasan does not want to be held accountable. He wants to diminish his role. Oh, I'm just here to represent the every person. Well, it's like, yeah, if the every person had the opportunity to go and talk to Barack Obama, they might be a little more angry than you are, right? If somebody that lost their home and watched all of Wall Street get bailed out, but they were not able to keep their mortgage in a place where they were able to sustain it, it ballooned up, and the bank came and took the home that they were going to raise their children. I imagine those people wouldn't have the same temperament as you, Hasan. And Mehdi wants him to grapple with that. Mehdi wants him to kind of see the light and be like, hey, like I should in the future when I'm given these opportunities do better. But it doesn't seem quite to me like Hasan's ready to go there.
This special, I think, touches.
I mean, the fact that you even sit down with
Politics and
politicians,
society.
most stand-up comedians don't sit down with Pete Buttigieg.
Sure.
So why do you do that?
But he said yes to the booking.
Obviously.
I know,
What
but
drives
being
you, though?
honest.
What makes you interested in
Oh,
this
why
stuff?
am I interested? I'm interested in people and the machinations of power, and specifically with bureaucrats and politicians, of why they make the decisions that they make, what informed the decisions they make, and why on earth they would decide to be in politics.
See, none of that is I want to challenge these people. And I think that's a problem. I think that's how we'd be better served if people like, Hasan Minhaj, who's the first step, right? Like we can't hold these people to too, high of an accord, right? We can't hold them to too high of a standard. However, I do think saying, hey, man, don't you think challenging those institutions, challenging that power should be somewhere on your list? Like, I get it has to be like entertain, but somewhere around inform, like maybe challenge the narrative of if you're going to be elbow to elbow with Pete Buttigieg or Barack Obama. You know what I'm saying?
You're fascinated by
I'm super fascinated by it. Just as a
Could you ever be in politics?
no, I cannot. Even though people say, they're like, you look like it, and I'm like, that's a huge insult.
Do people say that?
Yeah, they go, you should run
Is
for
that-
office, and I go, that
Is
is
it really?
I get big ego vibes from Hasan Minhaj. That's the other thing I'll say. I get big ego vibes. I think he would be good in politics. I think he wants people to demand that he runs for politics. He's the kind of guy that's like, oh man, it would be so cool if people really, really, really wanted me to do it, and then I could play it cool and pretend I don't want it. But we see through it. There's a reason that he's behaving this way. And he's cuddling up to power. Like, I don't know. I don't think he ever will, but I think it's maybe in the back pocket of him, like, or in his back pocket, excuse me, where he's like, if everything comes crashing down and I can't be a comic anymore, maybe being a New York State assemblyman or a California rep wouldn't be the end of the world.
Really
biggest
people, or do you
insult.
mean like your mom and dad?
no, my mom and dad, like 5 people are like, you should run
5
for
people.
office.
That's
Yeah.
enough.
That's enough.
That's enough for a majority in some towns.
But I also had, by the way, I had JJ Redick on the podcast too, head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. JJ's doing a great job. So it's also like, I'm interested
Yes.
in people that have a profound impact on the world. When it comes to politicians specifically, I'm very interested of like why some.
You can also really tell, sorry to cut in so much, guys. I guess this is why you watch a react along. The other thing I will say is you could tell how much his worldview has either, maybe it was already this way, but you could tell he came from The Daily Show. I just feel like there's a lot of Jon Stewart energy in the way that this guy talks about the world and talks about his comedy and his POV.
someone would want to be the Secretary of
Yes.
Transportation, or
Yes.
like why someone would want to be the mayor of London. I think I asked Sadek on that. I'm like, you're just gonna get blamed for everything anytime there's like a pothole.
It's
Or,
his third term.
I know it's crazy.
Guys-
So, anyways, that's kind of my intention of just like, hey, why do you?
But
do
what's
this?
interesting
going on with
is watching this special is it does feel kind of prophetic in many ways. You're ahead of the curve on a lot of the issues that all of us journalists are talking about now. There's a moment where you identify what's become a very big talking point since the election,
that? What's that?
which is the manosphere, the Rogan verse, the men who listen to podcasts. Let's have a watch.
I'm part of a generation.
Nope. And then we got to skip through that part because we'll get flagged because we're not bankrolled like
July,
you would
Yes.
have.
right?
Yeah.
The day of Donald Trump's attempted assassination attempt that you weren't at.
Yes.
All the commentary since the election has been, should Kamala Harris have done Joe Rogan? Do Democrats have a Joe Rogan? The podcast, the manosphere. How do we get young men away from right-wing?
And that's the last thing that I really want to talk about, which is what are Democrats missing when they talk about we need a Joe Rogan? You don't actually need a Joe Rogan. I think what a lot of people are articulating is the fact that the left doesn't have somebody that is culturally beloved and culturally impactful, right? We have a lot of legacy folks. We have a lot of people who dabble with, the kind of blasé leftism, like, oh yeah, I believe in equality, bro. Like, hell yeah, make love, not war, brother. Hell yeah. Like the kind of corporate Silicon Valley leftism, Democratic Party, oh yeah, I'm totally cool with gay guys, bro. I don't care. Pots should be illegal. That kind of thing. Totally cool, totally acceptable. We've got tons of folks willing to stick their necks out for that. But what we don't have is a major content creator who is able to relate and grapple and articulate working class issues, and also attract a massive audience of people who just authentically enjoy the product and are not drawn to it because of their politics. Like, there are so many people who will listen to Joe Rogan in spite of the fact that they find him maddening when it comes to politics. They can't stand his Donald Trump pivot, but they listen anyway. Why do they do that? That's the question the left needs to be asking. Why don't we have people who are entertaining enough? Why don't we have people who are relatable enough? Why don't we have people that the masses look up to on the left? We need to start asking that question. I think it comes when we challenge power. I think it comes when we start to be honest with ourselves about our pitfalls. One of the things that the left needs to really grapple with is the fact that Joe Rogan has seized on the whole self-improvement phenomenon. That's something we don't discuss at all. The left is very interested in talking about systemic problems, and with good reason, right? The world is systemically flawed. We need to do a better job. It's imperative. So many people are falling through the cracks. But one thing we need to do a better job at is identifying what individuals can do. How can I improve myself so that I am better able to serve my community, so that I am better equipped to aid and assist the people around me? That's a question the left needs to start asking. We need to start putting up examples of individuals who have said, I don't care about the profit motive. I care about the community motive. I care about uplifting my countrymen. I care about making sure that the world and this planet is in a better place than it was when I got here. I'm here to be a rising tide that helps lift all boats. That's what the left needs. We need to start talking about how, hey, overnight, we're not going to get any of these systemic solutions. So we need to start talking about how we can band together and what can we actually do? What constructive things can I tell an 18, 19-year-old kid? Hey, my life is in shambles right now. What the fuck should I do? All I can count on is me. I don't have a community garden to go to, dog. I'm just trying to survive, right? We need to be talking to those people. Joe Rogan reached those people, and they've been with him ever since. Right? They've listened to him every single night. He has been the motivation for them to keep going. And that's a power that the left has not harnessed in a long time, that we need to, again, because those people are our people. They're not Joe Rogan's people. They're not Compound in Austin, Texas people. They're not, I have $100 million and I moved somewhere so I don't have to pay property tax or income tax people. That's not them. They're our people. The people who are working class folks. Right? The people who are going to get shipped off to war if it comes to America, the people who can't pay their bills, the people who have lost their homes in the past or watched their parents lose their home, right? And they're desperate and they're trying to figure out how that's not going to happen to them. And unfortunately, we can't be like, well, you know, if X, Y, and Z miracle legislation gets passed, then maybe it'll be okay for you. No, we need to give people constructive, do this tomorrow. You can start tomorrow. Here's how you can both be a good, positive, contributing member of your community and also make sure, hey, you're moving in the right direction yourself. You're not going to starve. You're going to be okay. You're going to have a home. You're going to have a family. And more importantly, you're going to be surrounded by people that love you. That's the message that the left has got to get down with. That's how we get our next Joe Rogan. I think that we're on to a good start with conversations like this one with Mehdi Hasan and Hasan Minhaj. I'm very excited to be able to have an exchange on the Vanguard channel with my boy Gavin and Mehdi Hasan Wednesday, January 8th, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't miss it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Nothing Burger. I'm Zach. That's the show.